Hey Faith family, welcome to the Beyond Sunday podcast at Calvary Bible, where we go beyond the Sunday sermon to explore some rabbit holes and to bring some biblical truths to the surface. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Calvary Bible Church, welcome back to another episode. Special guest this week, Erika Stauffer.
Hello, Faith family.
Yeah, Erika, thank you so much for being here. This is a little impromptu. We're going to call this like kind of a hybrid episode where it's a normal Beyond Sunday, but it's also a little bit like one of the Say So episodes that we did over the summer with Sonny and Landon, which will be kind of reoccurring and popping up. So I'd say it's probably more of that. But Erika's testimony, if you don't know, just reeks of forgiveness. You smell so much like forgiveness.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah. So anyway, so glad. Thank you for being here. And I'm really excited just for you to be able to share your story and how forgiveness is a part of it and continues to be a part of it. So, but like you know, we like to start off with a joke. So would you like to tell the Faith family?
I would.
The joke. I got this from Kennedy last week, but Erika can channel Kennedy, yes. And it's a quality one, folks.
So just picture this joke in Kennedy's little voice, because it's way better when she says it. So, Jonathan, what does the nosy pepper do?
The nosy pepper. Kennedy? I don't know. What do they do?
Just picture the sass. It gets jalapeno business. It's way better when she says it.
Well, and when you have an audience besides just me. But that is classic. That's a really good one. I'm going to tell that one to Randy and see how he responds. But I'll have another one.
Well, hopefully he listens to this.
He does not. No, he does not. He doesn't. Yeah. I would be surprised. He never listens to the ones that he's on.
Okay.
Maybe he'll listen to these. I think, maybe he did listen to some of the ones over the summer.
To say so.
Yeah. So anyway, Erika, again, thanks for being here. I'll let you get into your testimony here.
Okay.
Share it. We'll pause somewhere in the middle and then finish the second half. So go ahead.
All right. So a little backstory, because I actually reached out to Jonathan after this past week at church. I was in tears. I don't know about if anybody else was, but I definitely was. It just really hit home and really does relate well to my testimony. So I kind of volunteered myself.
You did.
I hope that's okay to do.
She shot me a text and I was so glad that you did.
So that's where this came from. But I did share at the women's retreat. So it's similar testimony. So if you're hearing this twice, I appreciate the time. So for those of you who do not know me, my name is Erika Stauffer and I'm 37 years old. I'm married to Von Stauffer. He does not have hair. It is a wig.
Maybe we should just pause there.
Sorry.
Do you need to forgive Vaughn?
Yes.
There's a little, angst there in your voice.
Yes, he wore a wig for 3 weeks at school, and all of the kids thought that it was real by the end.
Yeah. One of the girls on my soccer team that I coach is in his class, and she said, I don't think it's real.
But she was questioning.
Yes.
Yes. Anyways, I'm married to him. Almost 10 years next year. So that's exciting. And the twins are 8 today. So happy birthday to my girls. And our third is Kennedy, and she is also 6. I have a teaching degree, and I worked in schools for over 8 years. I was a youth leader here for a really long time. And then I stopped that also because of the girls, but I'm back at it. So that's fun. Now I work as a residential cleaner. I do not teach anymore. I substitute teach every once in a while and will be in all of January. So be praying for that. And we live in Lidditz, and I love Lidditz. It's my cup. Let me just start by saying I started coming to this church in 2002. I give 2001, 2002. And I have never left. So just because I'm giving my testimony on this podcast doesn't mean that it's any more important or my relationship with Jesus is any better than yours. So just keep that in mind. It is more important and more worth sharing than any other story. So just make sure that you are sharing your story because you never know who you're going to reach out to. So that's my little word of encouragement to start. So as a brief background, I grew up in a divorced family that took me to two different homes, my mom's house and my dad's house, and we went back and forth daily. My mom worked at the night time and my dad was during the day, and we would do the switch before and after school, which would make for some very confusing moments. I felt like I never knew where anything was. Summers were pretty much the same, but included spontaneous trips with my mom to the beach, aquariums, fun parks, restaurants. And we used to go to New Mexico in Albuquerque to see my family, where her whole family lived. She loved surprising us in the morning. She was very spontaneous and would just be like, get up, guys, we're going to the beach. And we were like, yes, this is so fun.
That's cool.
So I got some spontaneism from her, I think, because I feel like I'm like that sometimes. She would be always listening to really spiritual music like Michael Jackson, Earth, Wind and Fire, Janet Jackson, Santana, Selena, Sade, Barry White. It's really no wonder that I wanted to be a big Black gospel singer when I was growing up. And you can confirm that with my friends. One of the biggest benefits to having divorced parents was having double the vacations. So a lot of times in the summers, we would do those trips with my mom, but then we would also go on RV trips with my other siblings, my step siblings. There was 3 of them and 3 of us. So we were kind of like the Brady Bunch. We would have talent shows. We would go rollerblading and biking around Mount Joy. We would have 5-day boot camps that they would set up for us and organize. It was so cool. We would do day trips. Yeah, we had a really awesome like childhood growing up and doing all big family things. And then the best part was going on those RV trips that I was telling you about. We went to places like Grand Canyon, Yellowstone, Las Vegas, Mount Rushmore, even Disney World, Niagara Falls.
That's cool.
Yeah, very cool trips. I can't imagine how she planned them because it was the 90s and there was no internet.
It's called a map.
Literally, she would hold a map that was like the size of her torso.
Yeah, and you'd have them spread out in the car.
Yeah, and it was probably so unsafe. I mean, she was navigating, my dad would drive.
Yeah.
But it was intense and so cool to look back on.
Yeah, character building.
Yes,
we all
many
need to
memories.
go back to maps.
Yeah, MapQuest. That's funny. Life of having a split family was obviously not ideal, but it did have its perks and it was manageable. In 2001, we were on an RV trip with my dad and my stepfamily when all of that changed. My older sister, she decided to stay back on that trip and try to help the strained relationship between our mom and her. And they went to concerts, the beach, amusement parks, and tried to kind of mend their relationship. While we were on that trip, my sister had a boyfriend at the time, and she gave him a set of keys to our place. His name was Carlos. He had a very broken family. He was abused physically and emotionally. He would come to our apartment for video games and to dinner. And I just remember my sister being with him all the time. So while we were on the trip, she wanted him to have a safe place to be away from his abusive family. However, he took advantage of that. And while was in our apartment, he stole alcohol from her and also a bunch of cash. She was really disappointed. My mom was, because she had taken him under her wing and he took from her. So she was very upset by that. And I remember coming back from that RV trip that my sister missed, and there was fingerprints, like dustings, all over our house. It looked like one of those shows, those reality shows. And they confirmed that it was Carlos that was taking and stole from her. Yeah. He was only 18, I think at the most, maybe 17.
How old were you at this time?
I am 13. I had a little...
Sister's 4-ish years older?
Yes. So she was 17 or 18, depending on the... Yeah, so she was probably 18. And I have a little brother who would have been 10 at the time. So On August 16th, 2001, he decided to wait for her after work because he was not happy that she pressed charges against him. She was a bartender, so I imagine it was close to 3 a.m. in the morning. And he took her from the parking lot and he strangled her and he beat her until she could no longer fight anymore. What I assumed killed her, he put candles underneath each of the beds in our apartment and burnt all of our belongings as well. So not only did he take our mother, but he also took a bunch of memories with him. And we don't really have much left from her. I have a few pairs of earrings. I have, a couple paintings my brother was able to spare. And not a ton of information or a ton of memories. While I know all of this information now, it took me years to get some of the details because my dad was trying to protect his, at the time, 17, 13, and 10-year-old children as best as he could. My poor sister, who was the girlfriend at the time, had to attend court trials. She had to go through the apartment to try to find salvaged belongings with my dad. And she had to sit through hours upon hours of details discussing this horrible murder that sounded probably like something of a docuseries at this point. And the pain and hurt that this man caused all of us was just indescribable. My dad had, at the time then, 3 motherless children that he tried to care as best for as he could. And we were with our step family at the time, so we were very loved and we were very supported. We had my grandmother who took us a lot over the summer. It was really, really hard time. So I don't know if that's a good...
No, that's a great place to stop. So, wow. The words tragedy and trauma and just heartbreak come quickly to mind. As a 13-year-old, what are some of the things that you did not know as a 13-year-old that you've learned? Those things that your dad was kind of protecting you from at the moment. Are you glad that he did? We'll get to the forgiveness piece of it maybe closer to the end, but just trying to put the pieces of the story together.
So I'll be honest, I was in college and I remember sitting there at my desk. It was like probably midnight because you know how you are in college, sitting up late trying to study, cram or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know all the details of this. And I looked it up on Google of all places and I found some really descriptive newspaper articles. And that was when I was like, whoa, like this was nasty. It was not a clean, I don't know how to explain. It was messy. Yeah. So, and so deliberate and so planned out and just really awful to be a 17-year-old and make this decision.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine it.
Okay. All right, I'll let you continue, but that's interesting because I know your story and where it's headed here, but I'll follow up on that a little bit maybe later. So
okay. So this was August 16th, which means it was only a few days before I would enter 8th grade. And so I didn't know where I was going to school. My mom lived in Manheim Township. My dad lived in the Donegal School District. And that's where I was headed. I was heading to Donegal. So I switched to the middle school just a few days after this horrific event. Being the new kid is never easy, but especially with a label like the girl whose mom was just murdered, which I knew some of the kids knew because my sister went to Donegal at the time. And so I'm sure the staff put me specifically with some of her friends' siblings. Okay. And one of those people was Lindsay Corso, or now Lindsay Rote. So shout out to her. Yes, that's right. High school.
High school. My daughter has her as a math teacher.
Look at that. So she was a friend of my my sister sibling. Yeah. I feel like you were one, maybe.
Yeah.
Eric, I think, might have been in that class.
In your class?
In my homeroom.
Okay.
Maybe not until high school, for sure, but...
Context there. I was the same age as Erica's older sister, Marisa, and so we were in the same grade. And she, was it her junior or senior year that she came? I think it would have been...
I think she came sophomore? Was she a senior? I don't remember. 13. I was in 8th grade.
Which puts her...
Oh, yeah.
Junior. Or I say junior year. Yeah. So I knew Marisa, Erica's older sister.
Yes. Anyways, so Lindsay became one of my first friends there. She attended here and went to the youth group at the time. I also met Aubrey Pry, shout out to the Prys, that year, who was also in the same youth group here at CBC. As the year went on with my, what sounded almost like a scarlet letter type of label, it was kind of weird to make new friends, especially under the circumstances. I remember feeling like all of a sudden I had to start life over again at 13. Nothing was the same. I had to move in full time with my stepfamily. I had a new school. I had new friends. And some of the friends, though, were starting to become really close. Aubrey and Lindsay were two of those people that they started asking me to come on a junior high retreat with them. And I didn't even know what the word retreat meant. I was like, what is that? Where are we going? They're like, we're going to go to the woods in a cabin. And I knew nobody. And I was nervous.
It was just preparing you for your husband.
Yeah, journeyman. Thank goodness we had indoor plumbing. After convincing my dad that it would be safe for me to go and that I wouldn't be brainwashed, as he would say. Mm-hmm. Love him.
Is your dad's family?
My family's not really believers. Okay. Nope. I went on that youth retreat with Aubrey and Lindsay, and also because I knew that a boy that I liked was going on the retreat. I won't say any names, but God works in mysterious ways. There's the name. Mm-hmm. There were only about 10 8th graders on that retreat, and I was talking with some people here at church, and it was like a weird trip because I don't think it's ever happened before where just the 8th graders go on a retreat.
Yeah, that's not normal.
Right? Mm-mm. Yeah. So it was awesome, though, because Chad Fernald was able to teach us, and he was the first person to teach me about the Lord and
cool. I didn't know that.
The love of Jesus and how sufficient it was for all of my needs and my suffering, because I was suffering in 8th grade. I left the retreat with so many great lessons to live by and some really close relationships and friendships that I still have to this day. But the whole Jesus thing was not my own yet, and I didn't really take ownership of it. And I didn't understand fully what a relationship with God meant. Mm-hmm. But throughout the summer, I was able to come back to the youth group here at church. And I heard message after message of God's love and his forgiveness and how we can be saved. And I know how, I knew deep down, though, that God was never going to save me from the pain that I had experienced in losing my mom. How could I ever trust a God that was going to take away my mom and do such a terrible thing? I knew he could never bring her back. But I did see so many people around me, which were Christians, that had such peace over things in the world that were hard. And I saw a love around me in this faith family, many that are still here today, that I had never experienced before. So in July of 2002, July 24th, if I remember correctly, the youth group was preparing for our yearly VBS, which again, I never knew what a VBS was. Mm-hmm. We were passing out flyers to the neighborhood to invite children to the youth group, or to the VBS. We walked around that evening, and God paired me again with Aubrey, who at that time was a CEF worker, which meant she was learning to train kids ages 5 to 12, how to lead them to Christ. And little did I know that those little wordless book 5 colors would change my life ultimately. And I accepted Jesus that night after handing out the VBS flyers. I was 13, but I knew the way that she was talking to me. I knew deep down that she was talking to me like I was 5, but it made so much sense. The gospel is not hard to understand. It's really clear.
Yeah.
It really is. I had childlike faith at that time because I also was a child. Like,
we can overcomplicate it sometimes. I know I tend to do that. Like, I overthink it. It's not hard. So, yeah.
It just felt a little awkward because I didn't fully understand what I had just prayed about. I mean, I did it and I knew what I was doing, but I didn't fully understand. But she told me just how excited some of our youth leaders would be that I had been saved. So she encouraged me to come back and share specifically with Monda Rumper. what did Landon say?
Yeah,
with
that sounds
Rhonda,
right.
One of my youth leaders at the time. I just had always connected with her. We were very similar in many ways. So I told her what I had just done, and it was the full Rhonda response. Pretty sure there was tears and cheering and hugs and lots of happy things. But again, I still was kind of like, this is awkward. Why are they all so excited?
Yeah. Because you came into some weirdo group.
I know. It was the best decision ever. So Aubrey continued to meet with me that summer. And I remember so clearly, she drew a picture of like the Trinity. And I didn't know what that meant. And the day that she explained that to me, it helped to even make my understanding of who God is so much clearer. And that whole summer, they would invite me for dinner really regularly. So it was like the whole family really, even Andrew Pry had to bring me to church all the time. Thanks, Andrew. So yeah, it was like a full thing. So I was changed that summer. And from that point on, my life was new. I had a new school, new friends, a new home, a new church family, but my heart was made new. And while the worst thing in the world had just happened, God used it to save me. I often say that I would not be where I am today without the tragic event happening. I no longer had a hole in my heart because God provided a way to take away my sin and my sadness. While trying to move on in life without my biological mom, I gained so many spiritual moms and dads and leaders and friends that have been pouring into my life ever since. And genuinely, I think you all know probably who you are, but I could not have done it without you. So many of you here today have been a crucial part of my growth and understanding of who Jesus is, and as an example of what being a Christian looks like. So I thank you for that. And so kind of relating to your message, this is where it really connects. Over the years of seeking God and growing in faith, I have a fuller meaning and desire for depth in my relationship with God. And I knew that that meant going deeper and loving God more, and giving my heart to Him to build strong relationships with Him and also those around me. With the hurt that I had experienced, I can relate to others in their pain, and I know that God's given me a good heart for that. And I can help to empathize and pour into others when they're hurting. But ultimately, because God forgave me, and I have a deep understanding of how gracious that He has been to me, God has allowed me to fully forgive Carlos for murdering my mom. There's no earthly way to really make sense of the peace that I have in fully forgiving him. But Carlos was only 18 years old. He had a full life ahead of him, and he made an awful choice. And I do pray that someday, as he sits in jail now for the rest of his life, for what he did to our family and to my mom, that someday that he too could feel the love and forgiveness of Christ.
Is his jail sentence, is it a life sentence, a 30, 40-year sentence, do you know?
From what I understand, it's a life.
Okay. With
but
maybe opportunity of parole or something like that. I don't know how that works all the time. It sounds like something I've heard on TV.
Yeah, I feel like it's life. I feel like they tossed around the opportunity of the penalty, the death penalty. That was not something that we wanted. Because I think that was different in the early thousands. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that being said, I would encourage us today to just share your testimony. You really don't ever know who's listening and watching. And as we go through our days, they could be going through a loss, a hard season, or suffering. And honestly, if Lindsay and Aubrey never just invited me to church, I would have never stepped inside these doors. So just reach out to those around you and never stop telling your story. And continue to pour into the lives of those around here at church, the youth group, the kids, the young adults. We just have this really unique opportunity to come alongside one another in our highs and our lows and support one another and lead harder in Christ. Finally, last paragraph, I promise. I leave you with this, that God is never the enemy. He permits what he hates because he loves what he is able to accomplish through us. While I could have turned on God many times throughout my life and questioned why he allowed even more trauma, another podcast, to occur after my mom's murder, I can't blame my sins and my actions and my choices on this event. Don't get stuck in your past and try to move forward. I feel like you mentioned that too. Let God change your heart and be made new in his Holy Spirit, and continue to press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called us heavenward in Jesus Christ. Our hope is in him and forever will be in heaven. So I just am really grateful for, Christ and what he's done on the cross for me. And it's given me the opportunity to be changed.
Amen. Amen and amen. I have so many thoughts. So that was your last paragraph, but we are not.
I'm done.
We are not done.
Okay. As long as you're good, I'm good.
Some side thoughts there that are not forgiveness oriented. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so. And so Erika said, don't stop telling your story. Yeah, just keep sharing it, because your story is going to relate to people and connect them, not to you primarily, but it'll connect them to the gospel. And we ought to be shouting from the rooftops what God's done in our lives, and not ashamed of it. So keep telling your story.
Because at the end of the day, who's going to be like, you're a weirdo after something like that happens?
Yeah.
And then you have a good outlook on it?
Yeah.
That's really enticing, I think.
Yeah. Well, and who knows? And maybe someone does think you're a weirdo, but at the same time, or they dismiss it for some reason. But at the end of the day, people are going to respond if the Lord is doing a work in their life, and if he can use us as vessels to, further his mission, then by all means. So I appreciate it too. You said it in two different ways. We can't let things that happen to us be an excuse to not move forward. And so in one way, Carlos can't make an excuse for what he did. And we can't just say, A, B, and C happened in his life, and therefore, I'm not mad at him. You still, even though the events of his life, contributed to where he was and how he responded and how he thought through his actions and that kind of thing, it doesn't change what he did being wrong. And so we have to come to terms with calling a spade or calling sin. And David says in Psalm 51, I didn't bring it up Sunday, but he says, against you and you only have I sinned. And so Carlos's sin, even though it was directly towards your mother and had, extending consequences to your family, that sin is first and foremost an act of rebellion against God's way for life and thriving in this world. And so we call it that, we call it what it is. We don't make an excuse for it. And then we also don't make excuses when bad things happen to us and say, well, it's just who I am. It's just how my family was, or it's just how we deal with things. Like, no, if we're going to let the Spirit make us more like Christ, then we have to be willing to overcome it through Christ, those default settings in our heart, the anger, the lust, the pride, the, whatever traps us up. So I appreciated you kind of bringing that to the surface. Let's get back to forgiveness.
Okay.
So the murder happened in what year?
2001.
Okay, 2001. And you came to faith roughly a year later.
Yeah. It was not a really long time.
And you were 13 at the time?
Correct.
Your mom's murder?
Yep.
So you're 13.
I guess I would have been 14 after when I became a Christian, because I was March.
Okay. So when's your birthday?
March 27th.
March 27th. So you're 13 and a half over the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And then the year you came to know the Lord, you're 14 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
A lot happens in 6 months. It's worth clarifying. Okay. So at 13 and a half, were you even thinking about forgiving Carlos at that point in time? Had you come to terms with, this new reality that was now your life?
No.
Was anyone encouraging you to forgive him? I guess what I'm going to get at is, at what point did you decide that, oh, I need to forgive this guy?
Yeah, that was much later. I would have never thought that was even something I had to do. Mm-hmm. I don't think that in the world it's the norm to do so. Mm-mm. And I think that oftentimes with anybody's trauma, they're encouraged to embrace it and
let it fuel you.
Let it fuel your ambitions and your actions and your motivation to conquer XYZ, whatever that might be. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know officially maybe when I was like, oh yeah, I need to forgive this guy. But it definitely wasn't any time after. I mean, it was not before I was a Christian for sure. I would say probably in college when I really understood the depth of what had happened and understanding, like, he was a child himself when he made this decision. And I genuinely hope that he can find Christ himself in a jail outreach, or I hope that he can find forgiveness within himself, because he's going to be there for life and unable to have his own kids and unable to be with his family. And I genuinely hope that for him.
There's so many dynamics to all of this. But that makes a lot of sense as far as just the timeline for you. So as a 13, 14-year-old, like, you're kind of, you're old enough. Like, that's the age of, some of my kids. So I can picture, my 12-year-old trying to process this, or my 14-year-old trying to process this. And you understand a lot, but yet you don't understand the emotional ramifications, the trauma that maybe hasn't come out yet, or you haven't worked through it yet. But as you age in your upper high school into college, like, then especially with more
and
did
when
anger
you're 13,
come out of you, or
yeah, for sure. I think when you're 13, your mom's not your favorite person in the world either, and you only have this picture of, as a child, the perfection of your parent. And when you're 13, you only see the bad things about your parent. And I'm not saying I was there. Obviously, the initial is like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing ever. And there's moments where I was very angry. I didn't say this, but my dad had a heart attack a few years after that. My sister had a asthma attack like months after that, and we thought we were losing both of them. And it's just like, it was one thing after the other. And I was like, why am I here? And I wouldn't say that I was ever suicidal, but I definitely had the thought, like, why me?
Yeah.
Why am I here? Why am I the one that, the Lord wanted to be a part of his family? And I do question that still today, because I know that not everyone, has a relationship with the Lord.
Yeah.
And I question very often, like, how do people get through things without the Lord?
Yeah. Well, and one of our responses to that parable, when we understand what we've been forgiven of, the debt that we owed to God, and the fact that, you just asked that question, why? If that servant in Matthew 18 would have just stopped there and said that, wow, like, why did you choose to forgive me of that enormous debt? How that would have changed him on the inside to really grapple with that. He wouldn't have responded to the other servant in the same way. He would have at least, and again, just to get to that story a little bit, if the man still owed him $100 or 100 denarii, whatever it is, the equivalent, he still owes him the money, but you don't have to go about getting it with vengeance and like anger. And like, in one way, when he found that man, he didn't embrace him in love. He embraced him out of anger. Like his hands were around his throat and he's choking him because he's so angry. And if we respond to the gospel, we're not going to be that kind of a person.
And there's moments where I do get angry over meaningless things, and it would be so easy to be like, oh, it's because my mom was murdered when I was 13. That's why I act like this. Yeah. And that's, in my opinion, not appropriate. It doesn't validate my sin. I'm sure that the trauma Judd Buckwalter would probably have like a great counseling session with me someday. But I know that some of the things that I do are directly correlated with the trauma of that time. But seeing as a Christian, I feel like it's our job to kind of take ownership of that sin and not just be like, oh, that's because that happened when I was 10 or 13 or 17 or 22.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well said. I don't need to say anything else.
Okay.
So a question came in for the podcast. Curious your experience here. There have been times that someone has wronged me and it was really difficult to forgive them, but God helped me through it. But every now and then I still wrestle with it. Those feelings, like they resurface, the hurt, the distrust, even for some of the consequences on their part that, affect them. So I catch myself wondering, did I really forgive that person if those feelings are still popping up? What's been your experience?
So, ultimately I forgive Carlos. I have very strong feelings of wanting him to be at a good place right now. I don't have any hurt. I mean, obviously I'm hurt, but I don't have any like anger, and I don't want him to rot in prison. Like, it's not like that. But every time that there is some kind of milestone in our life, in my life, I want my mom to be there, and she's not. And so I do have to say, like, I'm doing the 70 times 70 thing where it's like, I got to forgive him again because she's not here, and God's not going to bring her back. So, my marriage, when I had babies, my girl's birthday today, I want my mom to be here. And I do think, well, Carlos took her from me, but so I'm repeatedly, my point in saying that is I repeatedly am forgiving over and over and over every milestone. When I want her to be here, I have to say, like, you know what, though? I've forgiven Carlos for what he's done. And me being bitter and angry and I don't know, upset about it is not going to change the past and change the outcome. So you got to choose forgiveness.
Yeah. Because you've been forgiven.
Because I've been forgiven over and over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah. And we need it. We need people's forgiveness and we need God's forgiveness. So you're touching on the very beginning and the very end of that passage on Sunday. The beginning is, Peter wants to know, how many times do I have to do it? How many times? And Jesus says, there's no number. Yeah. Essentially, you just have to keep forgiving. Forgiveness isn't a one-time act. It's a continual process. Whether that's a one-time act that is your story, that you have to keep forgiving this man, Carlos, for the one thing that he did, 20 some years ago, that you still have to forgive him for that when it just resurfaces because of, your daughter's birthdays. Or someone I'm thinking in a different situation where it's, maybe it's not as heinous of an act, but they're wronging them and they keep doing it over and over. They keep saying something and they say it again. A week later, they say it again. They say they're sorry. What do they do a week later? They say it again. And even for that person, if that's you have to keep forgiving. Why? Because we've been forgiven. So that's the beginning of the passage. And then the end, you've forgiven him from your heart. You've got and I sense that in you. There's not that bitterness, that anger, that just, you're not the avenger here. God is the avenger for us. And so justice will be done, but you sincerely want this young man to come to know Christ. You want good for him. And so that's where I think we're always gauging our hearts. And if you can have those feelings to answer this question, whoever that person is that, or whatever that act was, and those feelings still pop up, are they feelings of hurt? Because if they're feelings of hurt, it's normal. You're a human. I think I said it on Sunday, you can't remove that memory from your life. You can't undo that act. It happened. So you can still, I think, feel the hurt from it, but your reaction to that hurt, is it anger and bitterness, or is it, man, I'm disheartened by that, and it's unfortunate. We live in a broken world, and I want the best for that person, because you've forgiven them from their heart. And so you've walked that, and you're going to continue to need to walk that, and we all are, because we live with a bunch of sinners in this world, and it just stinks sometimes. So
yes,
thanks for processing that. The other thing that you brought up that I think is worth bringing out before we started recording, the connection to the beginning of Matthew 18. Do you want to share that?
Yeah, so
it's fascinating.
It is fascinating. I was reading back through and listening to some other podcasts about Matthew 18, and it's unfortunate, like you said in your opening statements this weekend, that we can't just preach all on Matthew 18, because it is a whole, and in the original writings, it wasn't broken up in so many different pieces. So in the beginning, if you guys remember, and I think Randy was the one to do this, he talked about the humility and having the faith of a child. And yeah, I think I was just at this ripe age of 13 and ultimately still a child that needed Christ at that time. And I think if I was any older in my life, I think I would have been a little more hardened to things. I would have had more life experiences that God wanted me at that age. I had the faith of a child, and even the way that Aubrey was teaching me that, gold means that God has a perfect place in heaven, and dark means that we are separated from, and the way that she explained that was so childlike, and yet that's what I needed at that time. I didn't understand big words like resurrection and transfiguration, and I feel like I still don't, but I think, the chapter starts out, with having childlike faith and God wanting us to have that simple understanding of what he's done on the cross. And I think it was just the perfect moment. And I would not be here. I'll say it again, probably, if this traumatic event didn't happen in my life. So God uses these things in our lives and these events and these traumas and these horrible things, I think, to bring us to him.
Yeah, right. I mean, and when you're looking at your story and you look at that event, you wouldn't have been in the Donegal School District.
Nope.
Never would have crossed paths with Aubrey and Lindsay, and it just wouldn't have gone that way. But it's that Matthew 18, the very early on, bringing the child in and saying, if you want to be great in the kingdom, you need to have faith like this child, that dependence. And here you are as a young 13-year-old, totally dependent on those other people in your life, and in a way that you vulnerably that you wouldn't have been otherwise. And God was able to use that. But I just think it's neat because, yeah, like you said, if someone who's older, I mean, certainly God can do whatever he wants in people's lives, but to see in your own testimony this played out, because a 25-year-old's gonna, respond differently. They're gonna have more independence and self-reliance and just, push through and whatever. But you were at a very vulnerable state, in a vulnerable phase of life and circumstances, that you were open to the gospel and understood the dependence. And man, we need to stay there. So just act like a 13-year-old.
Oh yeah, the need for a savior doesn't go away once you hit a certain age. No. I really learned that. I learned that every day, actually, every single day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Preaching the gospel to myself daily, I think, is what you said.
Yeah, we need to be reminded of it every single day. It kind of reorients us. So, okay. Well, thanks for sharing that piece of it too, Erika. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure, a joy. I hope you guys were encouraged by it. Keep telling your story. Share. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so. Share it. And Erika started out by saying her testimony or her, being here on the podcast doesn't elevate her. It doesn't elevate me. We're all on this faith journey together. And so you guys all have important pieces to play in the kingdom and advancing it. And just remain tenderhearted to the Lord and pursuing him. Cool. All right. Thank you. Love you guys. Thanks for the questions. You know where to send them. And
podcast@cbcmj.com.
Oh, that was good.
I listen to this podcast sometimes.
That's awesome.
Most of the time.
Jordan, can you clip that out and just play that every week? That's much more pleasing than my voice or Randy's voiceover by Erika. All right. Thank you. Love you guys. And we'll see you on Sunday. Thanks again for joining us on today's episode. And remember, our Sunday sermons are meant to lead us to a life of worship beyond Sunday.